Greetings from DLAB Electronics. How would you like to build a custom boutique amplifier using an old radio cabinet?
That sounds like a great idea, Terry. Let's do it. Hey everybody, how you doing out there? We are going to work on something a little bit different this time. I know I've been working on a lot of radios, so we're going to work on an amplifier. I'm actually building this for a friend. It's all spare parts, so it's stuff I have around. So it's an easy project. You just have to make it. Just got to build it. And essentially, what we're building here is it's a hybrid of a Fender Princeton and a Fender Deluxe Tweed. And I got the circuit from Terry Dayton over at DLAB, and you need to check out DLAB's channel. I definitely will put that in the subject matter of the video. But go check out Terry. He put some really cool things here. So what we're building, I'll also put this up in the corner of the screen here. What we're building is a push-pull 6v6 amp. It's about 15 watts, and it's got classic Fender parts to it. The tone stack, for example. We're going to do a little bit different though. We're not going to use a rectifier tube. We're going to use diodes, just to save space, and you'll see why in a moment. And it's a really simple amp. It's got an inverter tube, and it's got 2 output tubes, and we're going to put an output for 4 ohms or 8 ohms, and then we have a 12AX7 here, which is obviously split in half. So it's a pretty classic amp. It's supposed to be a real screamer. We'll find out. And let me show you what we're going to build it in, and we'll go from there. So when I was thinking about this project, what I was going to do, I had to decide, what am I going to put it in, right? Then I remembered that when I first started this hobby about 4 years ago, the first radio I ever bought, as a matter of fact, was a Sonora, S-O-N-O-R-A. And I'll show you a link to the model that I have right there, and I'll show you a picture of it. And when I got the radio, the speaker was gone, the pieces were missing, didn't have any IF cans. I had no idea what to do with it, so it just sat there for all these years. So basically, it's an incomplete radio. Can't fix it. It's missing all kinds of parts, and I'm not about to start investing money into it. So what I did was, took the cabinet, which is right here. It's a really nice cabinet. It's a shame that the radio was no good. You'll see it has some really good inlays here. Of course, it's all veneer, but it's actually a model RDAU-209, and originally it had a 35Z5, a 12SK7, 12SA7, 12SK7, a 25Q7, and a 35L6 output tube. But it's a really nice cabinet. So we're going to use this for our amp. It's vented, which is great. I took the inside out. It's got this nice dial which we're going to light up, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Here's the inside, and you'll see here there was a speaker baffle in here. I actually just cut it like this because I want the chassis to lay against that, right? So the other thing I had was a chassis laying around. I had an old Bud 411 chassis that I wasn't using. It's right here, and you look in here, this chassis fits right in here perfectly, just like that. So we're going to use this chassis, and it will work out really, really well. And you can see here that we line up with our holes right there, so we're good. So that's going to be cool. Now, one of the things I'm going to have to do in order to mount this chassis in the radio, first thing that I said, okay, how do I mount it? I don't want to rely on this piece of flimsy sheet metal to do that. And let me show you a close-up. They give you these little holes here, and to me, this amp's going to be really heavy. There's going to be a transformer on it. It's going to be pretty beefy. So I cut some blocks of wood, which we're going to put in here like this, on either side, like this. And when we mount them, they're going to be flush to this lip here. And then what I'll do is I'll drive a bolt through here, and then when we mount it in the cabinet, we mount it from underneath. It will grab into this wood. Does So that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to keep that amp steady. Now also, I have to decide how I'm going to lay this thing out. So let's talk about that for a moment. So here's the amp. So the way that we want to do this is we want to put our power transformer very close to where the power comes in. So let's assume for a moment that this is the back of the amplifier right here. Okay? So if we want to have our power come in here, we're going to put our transformer. This is the transformer we're going to use. It's a Hammond 272BX, 600 volt center tap, 115 milliamps. And it does have a 5 volt winding for a rectifier, which we're not going to use, and it has the 6.3 volt filament winding, which is good. So we're going to put that there. Next thing we want to do is figure out where we put our filter cap. Well, when you build an amplifier, you want to keep the power on one side and all the other stuff on this side. So here's our filter cap. It's an MA 5050. So that filter cap is going to go right here. Spare parts. I had that in another piece of equipment, like that. And then our tube complement, we want to put we want to put all the tubes in the back here. We don't want anything up front. So back here, we're going to put our, we'll make believe these are our 6v6s, like that, right there. And then we're going to put our output transformer, which is a Hammond 125E, which is a 15 watt output transformer. I'm going to put that right there, just like that. And then we only have 2 more tubes. We're going to put one tube here, which is our inverter tube, which in this particular case is a 6AV6. And then right here, we're going to put our 12AX7. And we want to put our 12AX7 furthest away from the power side of this thing, right? It's going to be the most sensitive. And the 12AX7 will feed right here to the, or I actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put the 12AX7 here, and I'll tell you why. Because I want the 12AX7 closest to the input jack. And the input jack for this amplifier is going to be in the front of the radio, not in the back. If I was going to put the input jack in the back, I would put it here. But I'm going to put it here. And then I have the least amount of wire, because this is going to be the most sensitive tube. I'm going to get feedback, all kinds of problems if I start running lengths of wire across this chassis. Okay? So we're going to have 3 tubes here. 1, 2, 3, and then 4.
I've got an idea.
Paris, I've got an idea.
The flux capacitor.
That idea is literally the greatest idea I have ever heard.
My biggest challenge is going to be filament lines, right? If I put this tube here, I've got to run the filament this way, which isn't really cool because I'm going to impact the circuit. So I need to think about this one. Maybe what I'll do is I will mount it back there, and I'll put the input jack in the back of the amp. There's no reason why it can't be there. Matter of fact, that's what we're going to do.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
We're going to eliminate the possibility of having the 6.3 volt filament line doing anything in this section, because we want to make sure this it's a nice and quiet amp. So we're going to stick with our original plan. 1, 2, 3, 4 along the back. That's the plan. Okay? So let's talk about how we're going to wire this thing. So first of all, we're going to use 8-pin octal sockets. These two are going to be 8-pin octals, like that. And we're going to face the keys of these things closest to the transformer, so we keep the wires nice and short. And then, for these tubes, we're going to make sure that we keep the filaments along this back edge. So we're probably going to have to turn them around, because I believe on these tubes the filament is, let's see, I think it's 3, 4, and 9, I believe, or 4, 5, and 9. Sorry. So we're going to keep those pins towards the back of the amp. So let's talk about how we're going to wire it. All right. So it's going to be roughly a point-to-point amp. However, I am going to use a turret board. So I was looking through my stash, and I do have a turret board right here. So I took this turret board and I added a couple of extra components. I have these extra strips that I have, and I cut them to size and mounted them. This will give me plenty of places to connect the components. And what we'll do is we'll drop it in on the other side. So power section here, amplifier section here, and we'll put it on standoffs like this, and that will keep these wires nice and short going to the tubes and going to the controls in the front. From a control perspective, it's going to have treble, it's going to have bass, and it's going to have volume. That's about it. Nothing fancy on this thing.
Ron,
So
here is your current sugar reading.
Yeah, let's
You
wait
have
for that.
disabled this skill. Please enable it in the Alexa app.
Alexa is so annoying.
Alexa, what is pi?
The approximate value of pi is 3.141592653589793238462. Achoo! Apparently, I'm allergic to numbers this large.
Okay, so we're going to mount this thing right here, and that's going to give us the optimal place to put this stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to pre-populate this board. That's going to make this amp really simple, right? So all I really need to do is punch out the holes, and I'm going to use the Greenlee punch set to do that. I have the sizes for the 8-pin octals, and I have the smaller size for the 6AV6 and the 12AX7. So that's easy to do, and then we'll be in great shape. So that's the plan. So if this interests you, stick around, and we'll show you what it looks like. So I'm going to get these boards mounted in here, like so, like I told you, and then we'll start to drill out our holes, and I'll come back when I have all that drilling done, and you can see where everything's going to lay out. Okay? We'll be right back. When I snap my fingers, it's going to be done. Well, I was hoping to get everything done here today, so I didn't snap my fingers good enough. But here's the problem. I need a 7-pin tube socket here, and I don't have one, so I have to wait till it gets here. So until then, we're not going to be able to put the other sockets in. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the output transformer, which again is in Hammond 125E. And in order to determine, now this is a pretty interesting transformer. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tabs here. And it's basically a 15-watt push-pull transformer that you can configure for just about any amp. So what you need to do is take a look at your tube data, and here we're going to be using 6v6s, and you have to see what your secondary impedance is on the tube data. I'm going to flash up the one for this transformer so you can see it, and what it tells me, which I'll circle, is that I need 8,000 ohms, and when you look at the chart, I have to use terminals 2 and 5. So that's what we're going to do. So basically this thing will sit between the two output tubes. Here's the hole that I'm going to drill to run the wires down, and I'm going to take the wires on both sides and run them through the same hole. And the reason why is I don't want these wires that are going to the output jack to run underneath the turret board. I want them to stay away from there, so this will create excellent shielding. I won't get any noise that way. So we're going to mount it just like this. These wires will go down holes here. These wires will snake around and come down the hole as well. So we're going to mount that. And then obviously we have our filter cap installed. We haven't screwed it in yet, but we've got it ready to go. And then we just put our 12AX7 in, and then we can start to populate the turret board and get that going. So that's going to be what we do in our next episode, because it'll take too long if I don't. I also have a bin here of parts. This isn't something I've never done before, but I'm going to try it. And I went and picked all the parts that I need for this project, which is actually pretty cool if you think about it. When you're trying to work and you got to go scrambling through your pile of stuff, it's annoying. So here's the diodes that we need. We got a bunch of caps in here, electrolytics. We're good to go. We got a volume pot, 1 meg. We've got this 12AX7 tube socket. That's going to go right here. So when we come back in our next episode, we'll have all this stuff mounted, and we'll also have the turret board populated, or at least partially populated, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so that's going to be a wrap for today, just an introduction. This will probably be a 2 or 3 episode series, that's it. The last episode, obviously, I'm going to throw it up on the scope and use the dummy load, and we're going to see what kind of signal we get out of it. Hope everyone is having a great Sunday. Take care.